Hidden beneath the vast plains of East Africa, a powerful force is reshaping our planet. It's slow, silent, and unstoppable. Right now, as you watch this video, Africa is being torn apart, inch by inch. And in a few million years, a brand new ocean will fill the void. This isn't science fiction. It's Earth's geology in motion. Welcome to the story of Earth's newest ocean, and the day Africa will split in two. Begins with a scar, a vast wound etched into the face of Africa. From the shimmering shores of the Red Sea, through the highlands of Ethiopia, across Kenya's open plains, and down to the lowlands of Mozambique, runs a line of broken earth, 6,000 kilometers long. This is the Great Rift Valley, one of the most extraordinary features on our planet's surface. But what we see above ground is only the surface of something far greater, a colossal tectonic battle unfolding beneath our feet. Around 25 million years ago, deep inside the Earth's mantle, a powerful current of molten rock began to rise. As it pushed upward, it weakened the crust, stretching it like dough until it began to crack. That was the birth of the East African Rift System, a slow-motion continental split that continues today. At first, the movement was imperceptible, a few millimeters a year, slower than a fingernail grows. But over time, the land began to respond. The ground buckled and sagged, creating valleys that could swallow entire cities. Volcanoes like Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Kenya, and Mount Nyiragongo rose from these fractures, venting the planet's inner heat. Lakes such as Tanganyika and Malawi formed where the crust thinned and subsided, their deep waters marking the places where the Earth's skin continues to tear. Nowhere is this transformation more visible than in Ethiopia's Afar region, one of the hottest, driest, and most geologically active places on Earth. Here, vast fissures open overnight, swallowing roads and villages. The ground literally splits before people's eyes. The Great Rift Valley is more than a geological marvel. It's a living frontier between past and future, a glimpse into how new worlds are born. Slowly, silently, Africa is awakening to its destiny. And the first tremors of a brand new ocean have already begun. To understand what's tearing Africa apart, we have to look beneath, far beneath, the surface. There, in the hidden depths of the Earth's mantle, lies a colossal force of nature, a vast plume of superheated rock rising from thousands of kilometers below. Geologists call it the African superplume, a churning column of molten material that's slowly pushing its way upward, like a fiery giant stirring in its sleep. This superplume acts like a blowtorch beneath the crust, weakening it, stretching it, and causing it to fracture. As it rises, it melts the rocks above, creating reservoirs of magma that feed Africa's many volcanoes. In the Afar Triangle, where Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti meet, the crust is already so thin that magma has crept to within a few kilometers of the surface. Seismic sensors placed here pick up constant vibrations, tiny earthquakes that ripple through the crust every day. Every tremor, every rumble, is a whisper from deep within the earth, a message that the continent is on the move. Measurements taken from GPS satellites show that parts of East Africa are drifting apart by 2 to 5 centimeters every year, about the same speed your fingernails grow. It might sound insignificant, but across geological time, it's enough to reshape a continent. In some parts of the rift, new crust is already forming, the same kind of dense, dark rock that lies beneath our oceans. That's one of the clearest signs that Africa's split has entered its next phase, the birth of an oceanic crust. Volcanoes like Erta Ale, Ale, and Nyiragongo are more than natural wonders. They are the planet's pressure valves, releasing the heat that drives this grand transformation. Each eruption, each tremor, is a reminder that the Earth is alive and restless. Beneath the savannas and lakes of East Africa, the world we know is being rewritten. The ground beneath millions of people is, quite literally, in motion, preparing for a future where land becomes sea. This is how every ocean begins, not with a flood, but with a fracture. The stage is set, the forces are at work, and the Earth's next great divide has already begun. The story of Africa's Great Rift is not unique. It is part of a cycle as old as the planet itself, the endless rhythm of creation and destruction that shapes the continents. Our planet's crust is broken into giant slabs called tectonic plates. They float on the mantle, constantly shifting, colliding, grinding, and pulling apart. And when they pull apart, worlds are born. Long before Africa began to split, the world was one vast landmass, Pangaea, a single supercontinent surrounded by an endless ocean. Then, about 200 million years ago, deep forces beneath the crust began to stir. The land cracked, magma rose, and the first rifts opened across what is now the Atlantic. Over tens of millions of years, those fractures widened, flooding with seawater to form a brand new ocean, the Atlantic Ocean we know today. The same process is happening now, under our feet, in East Africa. The continent is splitting into two great plates, the Nubian plate to the west, and the Somali plate to the east. The fracture runs from the Red Sea, through Ethiopia and Kenya, all the way down to Mozambique. Slowly, the Somali plate is drifting away, toward the Indian Ocean, and as it moves, the land between the plates sinks, creating vast valleys, lakes, and volcanic ridges. If we could watch this process and fast forward, Africa would appear to stretch and split like taffy. The rift would widen, the Red Sea would pour southward, and seawater would eventually flood the valley floor. In a few million years, a narrow ocean will divide the continent, separating East Africa from the rest of the landmass. What remains to the west will become a slightly smaller, reshaped Africa. To the east, a vast new island, made up of Somalia, half of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania, will drift into the Indian Ocean, much like Madagascar once did. This is how continents evolve. It's how old oceans close and new ones open. And it's a reminder that nothing on Earth is permanent. Not mountains, not continents, not even oceans. The same power that once tore Pangaea apart is now at work beneath Africa. And though it moves in silence, at the pace of inches per year, it carries within it the power to reshape the world. The Earth has begun its slow act of separation. A continent is breaking. And in its wake, an ocean waits to be born. The story of Africa's split isn't confined to maps or computer models. It's visible, tangible, written across the landscapes and lives of millions of people. Here in East Africa, you can see the Earth's restless power. In Kenya, the Rift Valley runs like a giant scar from north to south, carving deep troughs between mountain ranges. Entire towns sit along its rim, their roads tracing the edges of an evolving continent. Farmers plant crops in volcanic soil, rich, fertile, born from ancient eruptions that shape the land they now depend on. But this beauty hides a deep volatility. The ground beneath is not still. Every so often, a tremor ripples through, shaking homes and reminding everyone that this land is slowly being torn apart. In March 2018, a massive fissure suddenly opened near the town of Nyiragongo. It stretched for kilometers, swallowing parts of a highway and cutting across people's land. At first, locals thought it was caused by heavy rain, but geologists quickly confirmed it was the Earth itself moving. A small preview of what the future might hold. To the north lies Ethiopia's Afar Depression, one of the most extreme environments on Earth. Here, the ground is literally being pulled apart by three diverging tectonic plates, the African, Somali, and Arabian plates. It's one of the few places where you can walk along the bottom of a continent, a place that may soon become seafloor. In this otherworldly landscape, volcanoes, like Erta Ale, glow night and day, feeding molten rock into open lava lakes. Sulfur pools bubble in neon colors. Salt flats shimmer beneath a burning sun. This is Earth's anatomy exposed. The crust stretched so thin that the mantle's heat seeps through. Across East Africa, scientists monitor the region closely. Seismographs record constant microquakes. GPS stations track the drifting plates, confirming that parts of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania are indeed moving apart by a few millimeters every year. Further south, the rift scars fill with water. Lake Tanganyika, nearly 1,500 meters deep, marks one of the most profound fractures in the continent's crust. Lake Malawi stretches like a blue ribbon through the highlands, another rift basin where the earth has already begun to sink. One day, these lakes may merge and expand, forming the first channels of a new ocean. Every fissure, every earthquake, every silent drift of the ground is a reminder that our world is not static. It's alive. It breathes, it shifts, and it reshapes itself with every passing moment. For millions living along this great divide, the rift is both a blessing and a threat, a source of fertile land and fresh water, but also a reminder of the planet's raw, unpredictable power. The rift is not just a line on a map. It is the future, unfolding right before our eyes. For millions of years, life has thrived along the Great Rift, a land of contrast and creation. It is here, on this restless frontier, that nature's power has sculpted one of the most diverse and vibrant ecosystems on Earth. From the highlands of Ethiopia to the grasslands of Tanzania, the rift has given rise to lush valleys, fertile soils, and freshwater lakes teeming with life. Volcanic ash has enriched the ground, feeding the grasses that support elephants, antelope, and countless other species. But as the continent stretches and reshapes, so too does life adapt. Every fault line, every uplift, every change in climate forces evolution to respond. As rifting lifted mountains and divided basins, rainfall patterns shifted dramatically. What was once a vast forest became open grassland. Rivers carved new paths. Lakes expanded and vanished. These changes created new habitats and new challenges for the creatures that lived here. Among those creatures were our earliest ancestors. Many scientists believe that the East African Rift played a crucial role in human evolution itself. As the environment transformed, alternating between lush forests and dry savannas, early hominins were forced to adapt to an ever-changing world. They learned to walk upright, to travel across open ground, to find food in new ways. They developed larger brains, sharper tools, and stronger social bonds. Each shift in the landscape demanded creativity, and that pressure may have shaped us. Olduvai Gorge, often called the cradle of humankind, sits right along the rift, a scar in the earth that reveals layer upon layer of our own origins. Here, fossils of Australopithecus, Homo habilis, and Homo erectus have been discovered, silent witnesses to the rift's role in humanity's story. Even today, the rift shapes life in ways both subtle and profound. Its lakes support vast fisheries. Its fertile soils feed millions. Its geothermal energy powers towns and cities. And its shifting ground continues to remind us that we live on a planet in motion, a planet that gives and takes in equal measure. The Great Rift is more than a geological wonder. It's a living ecosystem, a place where the story of the Earth and the story of life are forever intertwined. Here, creation and destruction dance side by side. And from the tension between them, new forms of life, and perhaps new worlds, are what we see today. The cracks, the tremors, the restless volcanoes, are only the beginning. If we could fast forward through time, the world beneath Africa would reveal its grand design. Over the next 10 million years, the transformation will continue. The land between the Nubian and Somali plates will stretch wider, sinking as it thins. Mountains will erode, valleys will deepen, and magma will rise to the surface, forming new crust where the old has been torn apart. And then, slowly, the seas will begin to invade. At first, Small channels of seawater from the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden will creep inland, following the path of least resistance. What are now dry rift valleys in Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania will become shallow gulfs and narrow straits. The air will shimmer with salt mist. Coral reefs will bloom in the warm waters of a newborn sea. Lakes will merge and expand until they are indistinguishable from open ocean. The Great Rift Lakes, Tanganyika, Malawi, and others, will be the first to surrender to the flood, their basins deep enough to hold the advancing waters. When the flooding is complete, the map of Africa will have changed forever. The Horn of Africa, including Somalia, eastern Ethiopia, Kenya, and parts of Tanzania, will drift eastward, breaking free from the main continent to form a vast new island. Between them, a new ocean will stretch from the Red Sea in the north down to Mozambique in the south, a shimmering body of water thousands of kilometers long. It will rival the Atlantic in beauty, yet it will be born entirely from destruction. For the people and wildlife of the distant future, this will be a new world. Coastlines will form where mountains once stood. Fisheries will replace farmland. New climates will emerge as sea breezes cool what were once arid plains. And deep beneath the waves, life will begin again, microscopic organisms colonizing the mineral-rich seafloor, starting the slow process of evolution all over again. In a world 10 million years from now, the Earth will look utterly different. But this change is not a catastrophe. It is renewal. It is the way our planet breathes, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth written into the stone of time itself. A continent will be divided, yes, but a new ocean will be born. And long after our species is gone, the tides of that ocean will whisper the story of how Africa once tore itself apart to give rise to something entirely new. The Earth has never stopped changing. Continents rise and fall, oceans open and close. It's the endless rhythm of our living planet. Someday, long after we're gone, a new ocean will shimmer where grasslands once stood. Ships will sail where elephants once roamed. And geologists of the distant future will look at the maps and see two Africas, divided, yet forever connected by the memory of their shared origin. This is not the end of a continent.